in this video, I want to talk about the key difference between the mindset of millionaires and the mindset of average people. And when I say average, I mean people who have average income. Just because you have average income doesn't mean you don't have redeeming qualities in some other facets of life. But as far as balling and shot calling is concerned, they can't really fuck with the likes of the real ones. All right. Now, you may be asking yourself, man, why should I listen to this guy? He got a tank top. He greasy as fuck. Well, because over the last few years, I've built several multi-8-figure businesses, but more importantly, I've actually coached thousands of entrepreneurs, and thousands of them have went on to build 7-figure businesses, right? And I want to show you the difference, right? As a business coach, there's something that always bugged me. It's like, how can two people with equal talent and the same information, how come some of them end up making millions and others, they get, multiple 6 figures, but they never make it to past that 7-figure mark? What's the difference? And I do believe I identified 5 of the major differences, and I want to break those down for you in this video. Again, multiple 6 figures is still above average. The average American makes around $50-something thousand a year, right? The average American has less than $1,000 in their bank account, and they're 17 pounds overweight, fat losers. If you're watching this, statistically, you're probably amongst the average. So the person I'm making fun of in this video is you, right? But I don't want it to be you no more, because I don't think I'm better than you. I just don't think you can be as good as me. Here are 5 different ways you can change your goddamn mind in order to be more like me, at least financially, because you're not going to be like me physically. Like, set obtainable goals. The first difference is embracing difficulties versus looking for shortcuts. For example, the multi-millionaires I know, the people who are really balling, they're always trying to see how far they can push themselves, how they can optimize things, how they can squeeze as much time or as much success out of each day as they can. The broke or average people I know financially, they always seem to be trying to see how much they can get away with. It's not just financially, this bleeds into other areas of their lives as well. For example, I was on a podcast not long ago, and the guy was like, man, Brandon, you 42 and you in amazing shape. You look like the Oscar statue on steroids. And he said, how do you do it? How do you stay in great shape? I said, well, what I do is I keep this food scale on me everywhere I go, and I weigh all my food every day, even at restaurants. I'll be at nice restaurants, Komodo, Poppy, steak, and I'll break out the scale. Yeah, I know it's a little unusual, but if you want unusual results, you probably got to take unusual action. And he said, yeah, man, but I'm sure you could probably eyeball your food and still probably be in good shape. And I'm like, yeah, probably, maybe. But here's the thing. I'm not trying to see what the least I can do is. I'm trying to see how far I can push myself. And that's just one aspect of it. I'm not saying you got to track your food to make money. I'm just using that as an example. It's in all areas. There's a thing where people make fun of the hustle culture. They make fun of people who try to optimize things. And I see that a lot online. And it's funny, but you really do need to optimize yourself as much as possible in order to get the most out of each day. So you got to really be pushing yourself in all areas, right? Don't look for the shortcuts. Really look for ways that you can get the most out of life every day, right? So people see me say things like, oh man, I don't cook any food because I don't want to spend time cooking, grocery shopping, cleaning, doing dishes, any of that shit. I just order all my food so I can work more. And then people like to make fun of me for that. on the internet, other people make videos about it. And sometimes they'll say I'm lazy, right? But no, I'm doing that so I can work more. I'm doing that so I can work more on the things that make me money, because I can make more money during that time. This is just one example. You always got to be trying to push yourself. If you look at my calendar, when I've shown it in other videos, I have every hour of every day planned out for the most part, right? Almost nobody does that. I'm really trying to squeeze as much success out of each day as possible, because if you have a successful day and you do that 7 days in a row, that's a successful week, right? And if you have 52 successful weeks in a row, you got a successful year. And if you start stringing together successful years, then you ball it. If you're not trying to push yourself, if you're trying to see how much you can get away with, it's going to be super difficult for you to compete in the world, because the world is super competitive, right? If you're not trying to optimize as much as possible, really trying to put yourself, there's no way you can compete with the people who are. You'll never lift yourself above the ranks of mediocrity if you're doing the mediocre shit, right? Extreme results take extreme actions. You'd have to be a fucking crazy person to think otherwise. The second difference in mindset is focusing on opportunities versus focusing on obstacles. I remember when I first started my YouTube channel, there was a guy I know, he was in really great shape. And he was a trainer at one of the gyms I worked at. And he had heard that I started a YouTube channel. I wasn't trying to tell anyone, right? Because I don't tell people my goals. I just do it because it's cooler that way when you accomplish your goals. And if you fail, nobody knows you failed. You could fail in secret. But anyway, he found out about YouTube channel. I was like, yeah, I'm starting a YouTube channel. He was asking me questions and he was definitely interested, but he was like, man, it's just, he came up with a bunch of reasons why it was difficult to start a YouTube channel, why he wasn't going to do it. Oh man, now I got to get a camera. I got to learn how to edit videos, blah, 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 blah. He came up with a list of reasons. They were all good reasons. Like none of it was bullshit. He only saw the obstacles instead of seeing the opportunity. In between you and any opportunity, anything you want to accomplish is going to be obstacles. You can see these obstacles in the path of you and your goal, but does that mean that you should cower? Imagine your life is a movie and everybody has goals that they're trying to accomplish. And in between them and those goals, there are obstacles, challenges, villains, right? So imagine your movie, you see all these obstacles, and instead of taking on those challenges, you say, yeah, you know what? Fuck it, I'm just gonna go home. That movie would suck. Imagine if the Avengers was just like, yo, man, let's just let Thanos get the stones. I don't like half these motherfuckers anyway. Yeah, but that movie would suck. No one would watch it. But instead, they fought Thanos and lost. And it was still a great movie. One of my favorite movies. It was the highest grossing movie of all time. And they failed. These motherfuckers lost, but it was still a good movie. Like, fuck, man, don't you want your life to be a good movie? Fuck, man. Even if you do fail, at least you went for it. Because here's the thing. It's okay to be scared of the obstacles in front of you, but it's not okay to be a coward because it's habit forming. Whatever you do is habit forming. So if you let one obstacle stop you from even attempting, now you've practiced being a coward. And next time you're in a situation like that, where you want to do something, but the obstacles give you a lot of trepidation or fear, it's going to be easier for you to cower in the face of those obstacles because you've practiced being a coward. But the opposite is true. If you face your fears, even if you lose, the fact that you acted courageously, now you've practiced courage. Next time you are in a situation where you want to accomplish something and there's an obstacle, a scary one, frightening in your path, it'll be easier for you to have courage and be courageous in under those circumstances because you practice courage. Now here's the thing. What do you think happens if you practice being a coward over and over and over and over and over and over again? That's going to be your fucking default move. That's who you are. We are what we do, right? If I say I'm a fucking astronaut, I can say it all I want. But if I don't put on a motherfucking spacesuit and leave Earth's atmosphere, then it's bullshit. You can't bullshit yourself. And if you are repeatedly acting like a coward, you can't call yourself courageous, can you? But if you are repeatedly being courageous, even if you lose, at least you're not a bitch. Here's the thing with business. You don't have to win every time in business. You only got to win once. You only need one successful business to be a millionaire, right? That's all you really need, right? So you can fail as many times as you need to, but those failures are going to not only give you experience, more importantly, help you build the courage that you need to go after your goals. So look at the opportunities and face your fears. Yeah, the obstacles are there and they're real. A lot of competition. You don't have any money, blah, 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 right? Because even if you fail, you'll be able to look yourself in the fucking mirror and know that you tried. And you won't never have to worry about what could have been, right? We are what we repeatedly do. The excellence is not an act, it's a habit. That's what the homie Aristotle said. This is super important. This is super critical. But here's the thing. Persistence is under defeat. So if you keep going, you will win. And I remember, I failed at a lot of things. I remember, a lot of y'all know I used to be signed to Sony Records as a rapper / producer. That's how I got good at making all these beats that you hear on my YouTube videos and shit. But I got dropped from the label when they merged with BMG. Even though it was a failure, I don't look back and be like, man, what could happen if I went all out? Like, I have no regrets about that. And I don't sit back wondering what if, because I went all out. I went for it. Are you doing that with your life and your goals? The next difference between the mindset of a millionaire and the mindset of someone making average income is long-term vision versus short-term gratification. I'm going to use YouTube again as an example. My students in my business, high-ticket trainer, I usually tell them not to focus on YouTube to get their online clients because YouTube it's difficult to build a big YouTube, but you can build Instagram and a Facebook following a lot faster. And yes, people are still making money off Facebook. I basically have them focus on that. But I did tell my students about 2 years, I said, listen, if you want to post to YouTube, you should know it's going to take at least 1 or 2 years of consistency for you to start getting any traction. So this means you'll have to do something for 1 or 2 years before you start seeing the fruits of that labor. And it has to be consistent. And almost none of them did it. And the ones who did do it, almost all of them quit after just a few months. They're like, I'm not getting no traction here. I'm going to quit. I was like, hey, man, listen, I get it. I told you not to do it unless you were going to do it for a year or two. You know what I'm saying? Just don't do it if you're not going to do it for a year or two. But I had one student who did. I remember. And his name was Cory Armstrong. He is the reason every time I post a video, somebody says, whatever the topic of the video, they say, yo, that's keeping you big as hell. Because he started this, hold on, bring it up. So I told Cory to do this, man. He started doing it about 2 years ago. Now Cory has about 250,000 subscribers. Videos get a ton of views, and he makes money off his YouTube. But after consistently posting, he's made $50,000 from his online fitness business almost every month this year. 1 month he had 60, that's his record, and we're trying to help him break it. He's kind of stuck at 50K, but 50K. And a lot of it came from YouTube because he was able to put in that work up front consistently for 2 years to build it, right? If he was just doing Instagram, he'd probably still be at 30K a month, which is cool, right? But he's trying to get to, his goal is to get to 80K, because if he does that, that's $1 million. And he's putting in the work, putting in the groundwork to do that. You get what I'm saying? If you can have a long-term vision instead of looking for instant gratification, if you don't need to see the results today or tomorrow, you can still work at that task every day until you get there, then promise you can win. But almost nobody would do it. But those who can end up becoming rich, end up making it. It took me like years on YouTube before I started getting any traction, right? Because I had to start YouTube before Instagram existed to build my online fitness business. It took me years of working multiple jobs and posting YouTube before I started getting some traction. And even when I started getting the traction, it wasn't enough money to quit those jobs. You got to be able to plant those seeds. The first motherfucker on earth to ball was the motherfucker who decided he was going to plant the seeds instead of just eating them right away. These other motherfuckers eating the seeds. And he was like, nah, I ain't even going to eat these seeds right now. These seeds right here, I ain't even going to eat them right now. He put them in the ground. People were probably looking at him like he was a crazy motherfucker, man. You putting the seeds in the ground? Nigga, is you crazy? He's like, watch, right? And then he came back the next day, where your trees at, nigga? He was like, yo, just wait. And it probably had to wait for a long time. Then next thing you know, the trees start growing. He's like, oh, I see them trees, man, but ain't no fruits. You should have ate them seeds. But then next thing you know, after a long period of time, the trees, they keep growing and they start bearing fruit. And now you can eat the fruit off them trees forever. You get what I'm saying? Wise man once said, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but judge them by the seeds you plant. That's Roberto Louis Stevenson said that. You know what I'm saying? The fourth difference between people with the millionaire mindset and the poor boy, average person mindset is solution-based thinking versus problem-focused thinking. And it's very similar to one of the other ones I said earlier. It reminds me of a quote I heard from Robert Kiyosaki. And he said, poor people say I can't afford it. Rich people say, how can I afford it? I think I told this story before. I was taking my son to Lego Discovery World, and in that same mall, there's an Omega watch store. I like Omega watches, I don't own one, but I like them. And I walked into Omega with my son on my shoulders, and they had this big, they had this Planet Ocean, the chronograph version, right? This watch is huge. It's a mess, but I like it. And I'm trying it on, and I was like, how much is this one? And the dude said, it's about $10,000. And my son was like, $10,000? He's 6 years old. He's like, $10,000? That's too much. That's too much. And he don't know that his dad got a fucking $200,000 watch. His dad, like, that'd be one of my cheapest watches. He don't know that, right? He said, that's too expensive. And I said, bro, never say something is too expensive, because we can get anything we want if we work hard enough for it. And that's something I'm really focused on bringing in his head. I don't don't know who told him that shit is too expensive. I don't know who told him that shit. Wasn't me. So I told him that. Then I said, let me get 2 of these so I can flex on this little nigga. Show this little nigga was really good out here. But it's like anything you want, you just got to figure out a way to get it. Never sit back and say you can't do something. Never say something's too expensive. Never say you can't look for a way around it. Like never say you can't do it. Say, hey, I need to find a way. You always got to think in terms of the solution, not in terms of the problem. This is very important. Robert Kiyosaki also said that by automatically saying the words, I can't afford it, your brain stops working, right? By asking, how can I afford it? Put your brain to work, put it for you, and it starts looking for paths, looking for avenues. But I'm like that with everything in my life. I won't say, oh, I'm so thirsty. I'm like, yo, I need to get something to drink, right? Instead of saying, oh, I'm sleepy, it's like, no, I got to get more energy. Instead of saying, oh, my girl's on a period, I'm saying, what that mouth do? You always got to look for the solutions is what I'm trying to say. And there's always a solution if you look for it. I promise you. The next difference between the po mindset and the baller mindset is embracing continuous learning versus complacency, right? Sometimes when I talk to people who are broke or just average income, what I can tell they don't want it bad enough. They start thinking about what's necessary for them to, make more money. And when I tell them what they got to do, they're like, I can see in their eyes that they don't want it that bad. And sometimes they tell me that, like, I don't want it that bad, man. What's the easy way? I'm like, you don't want it bad enough. And it's not necessarily your fault, right? Because, a motherfucker in the projects right now is living better than kings like 300 years ago, right? Them motherfuckers didn't even have air conditioning. Motherfuckers sweating like a whore in church just cause ain't nobody invent air conditioning yet. If they wanted to fuck by contrast, right? Poor boy in the projects, he got AC. He can change the temperature in his own home. That'd have been witchcraft back in the day, right? He's got a goddamn supercomputer in his pocket, and now it's got artificial intelligence in it as of yesterday. He's got endless entertainment on this thing, pornography. You know what a king had to do if he wanted to see some titties? Murder. You think I'm lying? Read the biography of Genghis Khan. We can all pull up some titties right now. Whatever size you want. Different colors, sizes, shapes. Some of them look like torpedoes. Some of them look like yams. Some of them look like watermelons. You can get whatever you want, man. You know how many lands you'd have to invade to get that kind of variety of titty? I see why motherfuckers are complacent. They got all the titties they want on demand. They can gamble on this motherfucking thing. Tons of entertainment. And motherfuckers just don't want it bad enough. Now, I was lucky to be forced into a situation where like being regular wasn't enough after my father committed suicide, because now I had to take care of the family. I had to really get to work, and I started working like 12, 14 hours a day, and building my business on the side because, it just wasn't enough money, right? But the beauty of it is it built a work ethic that I was able to carry into, back when I got the family on my feet, I was able to take that same work ethic and start using it to really ball once I dug us out of that hole. You're going to have to implement that on yourself. You're going to have to figure that out. And one of the ways to do that is to not only continue to learn, but get different kind of exposures. A lot of people say comparison is the thief of joy. I hear that a lot. I think that can be true, but there's also a positive. Once you get different exposure to what's out there, right? It might make you raise your standards, right? I grew up in the South Side of Chicago, man, a black ghetto, and I got sent away to military school. I got one little fight and my mom got scared, said, you're moving to military school. I had a roommate at that military school. Now, mind you, I was like one of the only poor black kids there because I was there on some sort of affirmative action type shit, right? They needed another black, so they let me in for next to nothing. But everybody else was pretty rich. And one of my roommates, dude named Cory Phillips, I'll never forget this shit. He was like, hey, you want to come to my house for the weekend? I was like, that's cool. Instead of going to the goddamn war zone, the South Side of Chicago, yeah, I'll go with you, right? And this motherfucker lived in a mansion. His dad had mad cars. They had horses, man. It was in Wisconsin. They had horses. I had never seen a horse in real life before, you know what I'm saying? And when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, there's another world. This is real. It felt real as opposed to just watching it on TV. It's like, oh, this is real. I was like, man, what your dad do? He said, man, he a doctor. He just a regular doctor. He was like, yeah, he like a feet doctor, footologist. He a feet doctor, huh? You know what? I should go to college. I wasn't going to go to college for that. I was just like, I was just going to go back to Chicago and try to get a leadership position in some sort of criminal organization, street gang, most likely. Betting my options, the Vice Lords look good, but I like what the BDs are doing too. The GDs have good infrastructure. I was just weighing out my options. But instead I went to college, but it was because of that exposure, right? So comparison doesn't have to be the thief of joy. Comparison be the fuel for your ambition. All right, so you definitely got to get some exposure, change your environment. It's super key, and get some more exposure to things. Listen, and I have a video that's going to help you do just that. Go watch that video now.